Mike is.
What the hell is wrong with you?
What the hell is wrong with you? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The 2024 NFL draft is over, in the books, complete, whatever you want to call it. And the Minnesota Vikings walk away with quite a haul of picks, especially at the top end of the board. Of course, doing something that some people were calling for, but most of us did not expect to happen. Being able to keep pick 23 while still getting one of the quarterbacks that they were after in the draft. Of course, trading up with the New York Jets one spot to 10 to pick Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Now, the word is that the Vikings did try to go up to 3 to go after Drake May, but in the end, the Patriots' asking price was just too high. From everything I've been told, the Vikings offered 3 first-round picks, their second-round pick in 2026, and a third-round pick next year, I believe. So they offered up a ton to try to go to 3, and the Patriots said, no, thank you. We're going to stick and pick, which they did, taking Drake May 3rd overall, leaving the Vikings to fans anyway to sweat it out for a while. I know, kind of watching the stuff going through there, they hit the Giants. People were worried about them. Just as I thought, they went after Malik Neighbors. They were not interested in a quarterback, or at least not J.J. McCarthy. And then the interesting spot got down to pick 8 with the Atlanta Falcons, where we're sitting there and nobody expected this. And all of a sudden you hear, with the 8th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Falcons have selected quarterback. And my heart just about dropped into my ass at that point in time, thinking they're taking J.J. McCarthy. But they ended up taking Michael Penix, 8th overall, completely ticking off one quarterback who shall not be named. Had to laugh. Ben Gessling had probably the quote of the weekend on that. Drafting Michael Penix just weeks after signing you-know-who to a large contract is not a marriage gone bad. That is cheating on your wife on your honeymoon. Kind of funny, I think, but that was one of the reasons why it was said that he didn't want to come back here, was because the Vikings had planned on drafting a quarterback, and then all that happens. Anyway, good evening, Dave. Good evening, Doc. Good evening, Nick, Reggie. But then we got down to pick 10, and sitting there, got by I thought the Bears might have been a spot where somebody was going to try to jump up. Bears stayed, took Rome Odunze. Then all of a sudden you hear at pick 10 that there is a trade, and the Vikings give up picks 11, 129, and 57 to move up one spot to pick 10. And then they also got pick 203 back in the deal to take McCarthy. From what I've been hearing is the Jets were getting phone calls from both Denver and the Raiders trying to get up there, and they were kind enough to say, hey, these guys are offering to trade up. You want to beat it. So Kwesi made the first move of the night, and I know some people, social media, are up there just pissing and moaning that we traded up one spot. And then you've got the king asshole over in Denver there, Sean Payton, said, I trolled the Minnesota Vikings. Made it look like we were interested in going up for McCarthy. So they traded up, and then but we got the guy that we wanted anyway in Bo Nix at 12. Well, no, you didn't troll us there, Peyton. You pulled a Rick Spielman move because we took the last of the top 4 quarterbacks, well, top 5 actually, and you panic picked and grabbed Bo Nix, who they probably liked anyway. I don't know anyway, but you picked Bo Nix about 20 spots higher than he should have been picked. And whatever. Sean Payton's a dink. I hate him. I don't hate many people, but Sean Payton is one that I do. And it's kind of funny that the Minnesota Vikings still live rent-free in his head. I don't think he's ever gotten over that whole deal when he was mocking the Skull chant moments before the Minneapolis Miracle game, but be that as it may. But the bigger surprise of the night, McCarthy was kind of one of the people everybody figured we were going to target. So that wasn't the surprise of the night. The surprise of the night was when exactly, Dave. The Raiders called too, and there may have been even more. I don't know who all else, but I know those two were involved. The surprise of the night came when the Vikings traded up to pick 17 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, giving up pick 23, a 5th rounder this year, and a 3rd rounder and a 4th rounder next year to draft Dallas Turner, the edge rusher out of Alabama. On most boards, the consensus number 1 defensive player. Now, Leatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA, did go before Turner did. And the Vikings were surprised that Turner fell to that point. Nick said he heard it was Seattle. Wouldn't surprise me at all. JJ would be the next Brady. I'm going to pump the brakes on that yet, David. I don't want to put too much undue pressure on the kid, but I think the kid is going to be very good. I love his attitude. I love his moxie. I love everything that I've heard about him. One of the biggest things I heard about McCarthy is, and I don't remember if McCarthy had said this or if Kwesi said it, but I think it was Kwesi in one of their private meetings, pre-draft kind of stuff, that J.J. McCarthy had asked Kwesi, is there a reason why the Minnesota Vikings would not draft me? Not being full of himself, not being a smart ass, not being what, I'm king shit on Turd Mountain kind of thing. He wanted to know if there was a flaw in his game so that he could work on it and get better. You seeing that kind of stuff, this is the kind of thing that, makes you just want to cheer for this kid and want him to do well, other than the fact, of course, he is our new franchise quarterback. But, and listening to some of the stuff that's come out, Kevin O'Connell talking about when they went up for their private meeting, after everything was all said and done, he said one of the things, they let the player pick where they were going to take him out for lunch for the day, and they picked some big name deli in Ann Arbor there that are some relatively famous, I guess, but the place was packed. He said that was the thing that they wanted to see also, is how he interacts with fans and stuff like that. And he said everything they saw about McCarthy said we can build a team around this kid. So that's the greatest thing you can hear about this, and hopefully it comes to fruition. But back on to Turner, as Dave brings up here. Good evening, by the way, Dave. Thank you for having me on your show on Saturday. Much appreciated. Turner leads Vegas in Defensive Rookie of the Year odds at plus 400. Another great comment. Turner was asked what the Vikings told him when they made the call to draft him. He said they told him to be ready to rush the passer the minute you get off the plane in Minneapolis. So, but I did not, James. What did he say? But yeah, Dallas Turner, I like that kid. He was one of my top defensive players, and if we had stayed and picked and not gotten a quarterback at 11, he'd have been a guy that I would have seriously considered at that point. But when we got McCarthy, I figured there's no way Turner is going to be around at 23 or even close. But we set an NFL record for 14 offensive players off the board before a defensive player got taken. And, I thought it was a pretty good chance that it would go top 10 before an offensive player or a defensive player got taken. But we went 14 picks, doubling the previous record. Good evening, Stephen. Good evening, Norsefius. Yes, Peyton is a freaking liar. But 14 picks, and then, we went, I forget how far it was. It was a big distance between quarterbacks and that, but, Leatu Latu goes off the board, first defensive player going. Then the mini run starts. Kwesi, not to sit on his hands after, getting your quarterback, makes another aggressive move, jumps up, hits Turner. Exactly, Reggie. And then I see a thing was either Friday or Saturday where somebody from ESPN was complaining that the Vikings had been too aggressive in round one. You get one of the top 4 quarterbacks, and you get on most boards the consensus number 1 edge rusher, and you're being too aggressive. Now, sometimes I seriously believe that some of these national media people just do not want to see Minnesota succeed, because stupid things like that, it just drives me nuts. Vikings are the loser of the draft because we picked J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, Shady can go pound sand. I don't want to hear it. When McCarthy's hoisting the Lombardi Trophy here in a couple of years, they can all just eat crow, eat their words, eat shit. I don't care. That's another good one here too, David. Cornerback they got 6'3". He's actually 6'4", 6'4", 6'4.5". But yeah, Kyrie Jackson, 6'4" cornerback out of Oregon. Another good story there. He started out at Alabama, didn't really play much down there. There's conflicting reports and rumors and stuff about some maturity issues, about some different things and some stuff. And he actually quit football for a while, and he was slicing meat behind a deli counter. He'd actually won Employee of the Month at I think it was Harris Teeter's or wherever it was he was working at. He was probably going to do that, and then all of a sudden decided to give football another try, went to Oregon, and stepped up, played pretty well there. Good ball skills. He's a good press man, outside corner. He's got the height, and that's, what we saw at the end of the season last year. That's what killed our defense, is that offenses realized that if you threw it out over the top, we didn't have cornerbacks that were tall enough on the outside to go up and fight for those jump balls, those 50-50 balls, that kind of stuff. So we went and took care of that this offseason, bringing in Jackson to compete for one of the outside spots, along with Shaq Griffin, moving Byron Murphy Jr. back inside to the slot where he belongs. Then we sat again for quite a while until the 6th round. Jackson was the best cornerback in the room of Brian Branch, Kool-Aid, Terry, and Arnold. I've heard that too from different places, but yet he didn't play in Alabama, so he did something to piss Nick Saban off, or there was something. Like I said, I heard there were some maturity issues to begin with, and I'm not sure what all else. I have tried to look up and find out what happened with him down there, but I just haven't been able to do so yet. This next guy is intriguing to me. We had to sit around again all the way till the 6th round. We had 2 picks. First off, at pick 177, we take Walter Rouse, the tackle out of Oklahoma. Guy I really didn't know much about, but the more and more I start looking into this guy, the more and more I'd like it. There's a lot of talk that he might move into guard, but could also play tackle on the outside, backup swing tackle type thing. But the guy is huge. He's 6'6", 313 pounds. Smart kid. He's getting his degree in biomedical engineering. So, very smart kid, very good football player. 2023, 0 sacks allowed while playing for Oklahoma. Granted, Big 12, but still decent competition. And I think, a guy that's going to compete for at least a backup spot. Of course, at tackle, he wouldn't be competing for a starting spot there. But if they move him inside, you do have a left guard spot that is open for competition as it sits right now. Then shortly after this, at pick 203, the Vikings came back and they drafted a kicker. Now, I know you hear the words drafting a kicker, and most Vikings fans get the cold sweats, the shivers, and wake up in the middle of the night screaming. But Will Richard out of Alabama, the SEC scoring record holder. The kid is almost automatic from inside 50 yards. Doesn't have the boomer of a leg. I think his career high is 54 yards. But, if you can continuously hit that stuff from inside 50 yards, he was perfect last year on extra points. I think missed 2, maybe 3 kicks, I think, total last year, but they were longer ones. To me, Richard kind of gives me that Ryan Longwell vibe. And if he can be another Ryan Longwell was the last guy that did not give me PTSD every time he trotted his happy butt out onto the field to make a kick. So I'm intrigued there. We signed XFL star John Parker Romo in free agency, but my guess is, we spent a draft pick on Richard. Richard is going to get the job. Steven won't be automatic once he's a Viking. We all have that worry of kickers, but we look at Daniel Carlson. Started out terrible for 3 games. Zimmer got sick of him and cut him, and now he's been great with the Raiders ever since. So, Doc, we should get at least 1 comp picking on the off chance we get a board on the Falcons picks next year. Yep. We get 1 for sure for Cousins. Depending, now I've heard, listening to Forno talk on Saturday about this a little bit that depending upon the contract structure with Shaq Griffin, we could still get another pick there. Not quite sure how that is working out. Nobody really knows the formula. It's kind of a highly guarded secret of some sort or another. But we will see there. Awarded any of the Falcons picks. I'm not going to hold my breath for that, Doc. I would love to see it. But, it's not something I'm going to bank on. We'll put it that way. James, we'll talk about Murphy in just a second. I want to finish off here with the last couple of actual draft picks first, and then we'll get into some of these undrafted guys we brought in. David, good evening. Consistent kicker for 5 years, kicked Alabama in big games for 6 rounder, doesn't get better. I agree. He's going to be an upgrade over what we've had. Greg Joseph is now in Green Bay, which he'll be fighting it out with Anders Carlson over there. May the worst kicker win on that one. But anyway, moving on to our 2 7th-round picks that we got. Starting off with Michael Juergens at pick 230, a guard/center from Wake Forest, 6'4", 311. Really high decorated kid in the ACC, some all ACC teams, runner up for a bunch of different awards. So he's right up in there. I mean, another very smart kid. The way it sounds, they love how he can process and how he works on the field. So at very least, he's backup material for guard and center. Maybe can push eventually Bradbury at the center spot. I guess we'll see. But looking forward to see what he can do. And then the last kid we got, pick 232, Levi Drake Rodriguez, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M Commerce. Pretty good-sized kid, 6'4", 290. In 2 years at Texas A&M Commerce, he had 88 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. 2 years before, or the 2 years prior to that, he was at the Southwest Assembly of God University, junior college. I had 102 tackles there, 23.5 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, and a blocked kick. This guy kind of gives me that vibe. He's a real high motor guy. Kind of gives me that vibe of the small school guy with a chip on his shoulder that's wants to come in and make a name for himself. Kind of like what John Randall came out of some no-name small school out of Texas and turned into a Hall of Fame career. I'm interested. I don't know much about this kid, and I haven't had a chance to watch any tape on him, but I'm really intrigued by what I've seen. And like David says here, the energy of John Randall, rock and roll motor. That's the biggest things I've heard so far about Levi is the fact that he's got a motor that does not stop. And we need something like that on the defensive line. You put him at that 3-4 defensive end and let him roll. I'm going to be very intrigued to see how that goes. I got to go watch some tape on him. I haven't done so yet, but I'm very intrigued about that. And these, once in a while you get these late round gems. And I know you hear a lot of the, people on social media, everything else is sitting out there. Well, they didn't pick, this guy was on the board when they took this guy, and I've never heard of this guy. So, why did they do something dumb like that? Blah, 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 blah. One thing we've all got to remember on this kind of stuff, and I heard this, I think it was something Kevin O'Connell was talking about, and it kind of, the light bulb kind of come on a little bit. Yes, we all have our favorite players, especially some of these late round guys that we either have watched played when they were in college or, have got the name from someplace and we watched a little tape on him or bought into some hype of some of these guys. But the thing you got to remember, we may watch tape on these guys and think this is a very good football player, somebody I would like to have on my team. One thing, those of us who break down the tape, just fans, all this stuff, one thing we are not privy to and do not have part of it is what goes on in these top 30 visits, these private meetings, this other stuff that they have with some of these kids. Does the kid fit what they want specifically out of a player? He may be a very good player, but he may be a first-rate jack-off personality-wise. It's going to be a cancer in a locker room, stuff like that. That's, you're not going to take a flyer on somebody like that could, just because their film looks good. There's more to it than that, and that kind of hit home when I heard that talk about some of that stuff, and it makes sense. And that's what said David, exactly. That's what separates pro scouts from TV, YouTube people. Agreed. I mean, I watch a ton of tape on a lot of these guys, not so much the later round guys, but a lot of these early round guys. And, I'm no draft expert. I love it. I love getting into it. I'd love to be more involved in it. But, until you're in those meetings with these guys, interviewing them, that kind of stuff, you don't know. Tape tells you a lot of stuff. Tape is told how many people that, some of these can't miss players up in the top 5, not necessarily even quarterbacks, but, some of these guys can't miss defensive end tackles, defensive ends, wide receivers. Wide receiver has I think there's less than a 40% success rate on first round picks. I mean, we've seen it ourselves, Laquan Treadwell, Troy Williamson, guys like these that tape does tell you a lot, Reggie. Yes, I agree, but there is a second level to it that, the tape is going to show you if the kid can play first. And if the tape shows the kid can play and you're intrigued, that's when that next level with the interviews and finding out what kind of a person they are. Are they a team player? Are they just in it for themselves? All that kind of stuff. That's where you start finding that next level that separates, because let's face it, you had 257 players who put out good enough tape to get drafted this past weekend. And then another countless amount. I mean, Vikings have 17 undrafted free agents they brought in. So, a lot more to it. Speculation and mock draft season's out of hand. I agree with that. I mean, I love mock drafts because mock drafts help me at least figure out where players are being projected in many places to go. So then if I see somebody, this guy is continuously showing up in the early 4th round. Okay, Vikings have an early 4th round pick. He plays a position that we need. Okay, then I'll go take a deeper look at some of them, or if it's at a position that we don't have much in, in the 3rd round, we're not going to waste a pick on something. Since we took J.J. McCarthy, we're not taking another quarterback in the 1st round. I'm not going to be paying attention to quarterbacks really that can be drafted in the 4th round. Just kind of, they have their place. They're fun for people to speculate and stuff. But yeah, just having looking at mock drafts and making your picks on that is not the end of it. Norsefius, salute to Air Force Lieutenant Bo Richter. Yes, and with that, let's start in on the list of 17 undrafted free agents that the Vikings brought in at the conclusion of the draft. Starting out with a very big name, a guy who I think could be this year's Ivan Pace Jr. I had this kid at like a 5th round pick, and somehow or another he fell out of the draft. I think size, again, same thing happened with Ivan Pace last year. I think size probably did it. But Gabriel Murphy, the edge out of UCLA, who played opposite of Leatu Latu, had a hell of a season. I think he had like 7 sacks, something like that. Good evening, Dan. Played very well. I saw somebody today saying, yeah, he's not near as good as what you think he is because he played on the opposite side of Latu, and Latu took all the double teams, everything else, allowing him to do it. That's what a complimentary player is supposed to do. And I went back to him with, okay, so yeah, he had Latu on the other side here. Coming to Minnesota, he's going to have Dallas Turner on the other side. He's going to have Jonathan Gennard on the other side. He's going to potentially have Andrew Van Ginkel on the other side, rotating around with this stuff. So he's going to have quality players that he's playing with. And he's my pick right now out of all of these late round guys and UDFAs. Gabriel Murphy will make the team. You can write that down in Sharpie permanent marker right now. He will make the team. And I'm expecting big things out of this kid. I like this kid. The next one, Dwight McGlothern, cornerback out of Arkansas. Another big, tall outside corner that can come in and compete. 6'2". He's a little bit shorter than Jackson is, but still a couple inches taller than most of the rest of the cornerbacks that we have on the roster. He allowed one catch over 15 yards last year. One. According to Pro Football Focus, he was ranked as the #1 cover corner in the FBS out of 370 qualified cornerbacks. Again, another guy that I fully expected to get drafted. In that 5th, 6th round someplace, and I'm not sure why he fell. We actually got 2, Dan. I'll talk about those in just a minute. But I like McGlothern as well, and I think he's going to definitely push for a spot on the roster. Next guy, Owen Porter, the edge out of Marshall. Probably looking at a special teams guy here. Really high motor. Coaches and teammates absolutely love the kid. Going to be very interesting to see what he can do. Then Norsevius just brought this up. Bo Richter, the edge rusher out of Air Force, had 9 sacks, 9 hits, 37 hurries, and 55 pressures. 3rd highest pass rush win rate in 2023 per Pro Football Focus. And that's coming from Air Force, who, is a lower level school. They're not a Power 5 by any stretch of the imagination. But a guy that, could potentially compete. You got another military guy, Andre Carter, that's in there already. So you're going to have the battle of the branches going on as trying to find a spot on the roster. We walked into this with a pretty serious lack of depth at the edge rusher, and now I think we've got a lot of guys that can compete here. We brought in 4 edge rushers when you consider the 3 undrafted free agents and, of course, Dallas Turner. So a lot to compete for a few spots there. So we'll see what happens. Next guy, we actually took 2 wide receivers from Mercer. First guy, Ty James. He was the 8th ranked wide receiver in all of FBS and FCS last year, according to Pro Football Focus. 63 catches, 1,138 yards, and 7 touchdowns. The other guy from Mercer, Devron Harper, he's more of a kick returner. That's going to be his kind of specialty. Averaged 29.1 yards per return last year, but he also had 78 passes, which was actually the leading receiving total for Mercer. Next guy, Doug Nestor, offensive lineman from West Virginia, played both guard and tackle. Ranked 59th in all of FBS last year for pass blocking. So I don't know what his run blocking was. I didn't see the numbers on that, but 59th in all of FBS out of 125 schools at that level, something like that. Roy D. Mercer. No, Dave, it was not Roy D. Mercer. Next guy, here's one of those nose tackles that Dan brought up. I was kind of hoping we'd have taken a nose tackle in the draft at some point in time. Sweat, as many of us figured, the issues with his stuff didn't really hurt him too much. Tennessee took him early, but Taki Taimani, that's the guy I'm just getting to right now, David, thanks. Defensive tackle out of Oregon, 6'1", 309, kind of a bowling ball kind of guy, big run stuffer. Definite possibility at nose tackle where we need big bodies there. Next guy, Dallas Gant, the linebacker out of Toledo. All MAC honors in 22 and 23, 791 special teams snaps in his career. I think guy there that could compete as a backup linebacker and special teams guy. We need some of those. So I'm interested to see what happens with him. Tyler Knox, tight end out of South Carolina. Don't know a lot about him. Didn't get a chance to research him much at all. I think Gant has some legit potential. Good evening, Ryan, by the way. Again, I've heard good things about him. And, you work your way onto the team on special teams and start trying to get yourself some playing time on defense and see where things go. I mean, how many players have we seen over the years that make a 53-man roster as a special teamer? I mean, look at Josh Metellus was a special teams guy a couple of years ago, and now he's one of our best defensive players in the back end. Adam Thielen is another one, of course. So yeah, I'm intrigued, and I want to see what all these guys can do. Talked about Devron Harper, another linebacker out of Miami, KJ Cloyd. Don't know much about him either. Guy that we'll have to see. Same thing with Donovan Manuel, linebacker out of Florida International. Next one, here's another defensive tackle that can maybe push for a little bit of nose tackle play. Tyler Manoa out of Arizona, defensive tackle, 6'5", 315 pounds. Big dude. See what Ludafisk. Oh boy. Next guy, another wide receiver, Jay-Sean Jones, wide receiver out of Maryland. Caught 57 passes last year for 800 yards. I don't know much about the kid here, what he brings to the table, but he's been in college since 2018. So he's obviously on the older side. He's been in college for 6 years, unless he's going for a doctorate or something. I'm getting, COVID year screwed up some of this stuff too, and whatever all else. But no, we're not doing lutefisk. I'm sorry, George. My grandfather used to eat that at Thanksgiving and Christmas all the time, and I've never tried it because I can never get it close enough to my nose because it stinks so freaking bad. The Ant and Reggie show, yeah. Meant to like show, blasting Reggie. Yeah. Reggie can do a combo show, Vikings and barbecue. Everybody'd watch that. Anyway, a couple other guys. This is another guy that Jeremy Flax, offensive lineman out of Kentucky, plays right guard and right tackle. This guy is absolutely massive. 6'6", 356 pounds. 24 career starts. I think can potentially compete for a spot, at least a backup. Then two more guys. Spencer Rowland, offensive line out of the University of North Carolina. Protected Drake May there for the last couple of years. Local kid, he's out of Burnsville, Minnesota, 6'6", 315. George, what's worse, lutefisk or anchovy bagong? I have not tried either one of them, and I do not plan on trying either one of them. Anchovies are disgusting also. So, yeah, not doing that. Then the final guy. Let's get this through here. Matt Cindric, offensive line out of Cal. Center, guard, played both positions. 6'4", 295. Again, another one of the little older guys. He's 25 years old, or will be 25 by the time comes into camp. Bagong is Filipino. Yep, well aware, George. My gal's from the Philippines, so well aware of the cuisine over there and some of that stuff that she eats. And it's to each their own, but it's not stuff that I'm going to really partake in. So, yeah, there's some pretty interesting cuisines as you go around the world. So I'm not. But there again, we're not cooking. We're not doing a cooking show tonight. We'll say that for another night. Love the players we got. Screaming for defensive tackle Gabe Hall. Of course, the Eagles picked him up. They do nose tackle right. Eagles always have good nose tackles. I wanted Sweat. I like McKinley Jackson an awful lot. And I also like Christian Boyd in Iowa. And of course, we need him. But be interested to see what some of these undrafted guys do. Maybe they can be the next Kiris Tonga, or somebody that comes in and can step up and play at least a rotational role at that nose tackle position on rundowns. Doc, there's too much good food in the world. Why would you mess with stuff not in your wheelhouse? I'm all for trying new stuff, as long as within reason. We'll put it that way. But yeah, there's some of the stuff that I really have no desire to try to eat. But yes, hate the Eagles. They attract the fat body defensive tackles. Yeah, like I said, that's one thing they do well. Is Tonga gone? I believe so. He signed somewhere else. I don't remember where, but yeah, he isn't on the team, I don't believe, unless I'm mistaken. But I could have swore he signed somewhere else. And to be honest, Tonga disappointed me last year. I had high hopes for him. I thought he was going to come in and play well, and he really didn't. And I don't know why, but he didn't fit well enough in Flores' system. So wish him the best wherever his career takes him. But Flores must think Jalen Roy is going to take a big step. That's a possibility, Narcivius. I mean, he's a guy we took last year. I thought had an opportunity in training camp. He played pretty well in some of the preseason stuff. Was hurt for a while there, but at the end he showed up a little bit. Played decent when he was when he got a chance to play. It wasn't a ton, but you've got some of these other guys who brought in. Tillery is in there. Of course, we still have Harrison Phillips. Got a couple of other mid-range bargain free agents that we brought in. And then some of these guys, the Levi Drake Rodriguez's of the world, or some of these, Tayamani or Manoa, these guys are brought in for nose tackle. There's going to be a lot of competition at training camp this year, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited as hell to see what J.J. McCarthy's going to do. They've already said, they're out saying the right things, with McCarthy's. We're not going to push him until he's ready and that kind of stuff. But I think he's going to have every opportunity to compete for the starting job, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him get it starting week 1. But Nick, I figured you would have an opinion on him. Okay player, not good enough to make the team. Saw him play a lot, being University of Arizona fan. I didn't know anything about him. really, but I figured you would, and give him a chance to compete in training camp. We got to have 90 guys on the roster, and he's one of them. So, Chiller been a dud so far. Such high hopes for my ND boy. He played okay with the Raiders last year. I think he took a step up, and as we've seen with some other guys, if anybody's going to get something out of these guys, it's going to be the mad scientist Brian Flores. So, if there's anything there, I think Flo will get it out of him. So we'll just kind of see. And now Tillery had, he's had some stuff as kind of a pain in the ass a few times, but they obviously saw enough out of him to give him a shot. So we'll see what happens. What do you think? Are we going to have Blake Brandel start this year, or is Reisner coming in? Very good question, Ryan. I wanted to talk about this and almost forgot, so thank you very much for bringing that up. I sat there talking a lot about why Reisner hasn't been signed anywhere, and would he come back? Now, as of today, there will be a second or potential second wave of free agency because anybody signed from today on does not count against the comp pick formula. So if Reisner's going to come back, now would be the time that they would sign him. The thing with Reisner is, he decent at pass blocking. I thought he did a fine job there last year, but his run blocking is his weak spot. And bringing in Aaron Jones this year, there's going to be, and especially if McCarthy gets started early, there's going to have to be a renewed emphasis on the run game a little bit to take pressure off of him. And, looking at Reisner as a run blocker, I think that's probably why the Vikings have not brought him back in, is because he struggled in the run game last year. Very good in the pass game, but struggled in the run game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back, but it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, either if he does not. I'm not comfortable really in having Blake Brandel start. Blake Brandel is a fine backup spot starter when you need him, can play multiple positions, but giving him a full-time starting job at left guard is something I'm not jumping off my chair in joy for, I guess we'll put it right now. Guys like Patrick Jones are going to get pushed this year. I'm not convinced Pat Jones makes the roster. We brought in 4 edge rushers. I said Gabriel Murphy is going to make the roster. I'm saying that right now. Dallas Turner, of course, is making the roster. You got Richter, you've got Porter, you've got there was one other edge here someplace that we brought in that are going to push for playing time. You still got Andre Carter. Yes, you've got Pat Jones. Pat Jones had a premier opportunity last year when DJ Wanham went down to step up and show that he, deserved playing time, and he really didn't do that. When Wanham went down, Danielle Hunter struggled toward the end of the season. Hunter went 3 weeks without a sack after Wanham went down. So not having any pressure off that other side, really cost the Vikings a lot in the defensive side of things. Did anybody see what Seifert posted on X yesterday? Said Kyrie Jackson told the coaching staff best cornerback in the draft, and because of politics, he'd be listed behind the other guys. Yeah, I saw that. They didn't really get into the politics side of things as to why, but there was something was going on because, he was, like I said, Reggie said this earlier, and I've seen in many places that he was a very talented player, and he showed it at Oregon, but for whatever reason, he couldn't get on the field much at Alabama, and, whether he had some sort of issue with Nick Saban is what I'm guessing. I don't know what it was, but yeah, Robert, we talked about him earlier, and I've given Sean Payton all the airtime that I'm going to. So, time we have some big Huevos players, I'll go along with that. Kyrie can prove it in camp, and I think he will prove it in camp. I like the kid. And we need some big, tall corners, and because everybody we had last year was 6 foot or less, and I mean played well for the most part. You know, guys like Blackman, Evans had his ups and downs. Booth, you know, I'm not sure where he goes from here. Byron Murphy was our top corner, but he's, you know, under 6 foot or six. He's right at 6 foot, somewhere in there. And you know, we just struggled in getting up with those big, tall 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers. Now you got a 6'4" cornerback on one side. Shaq Griffin, I think, is 6'1", 6'2", and McGlothern is another 6'2" guy. We get some height out there. This is what Flores wants in his backfield, and I think it'll make it work. Love the attitude. 6'2", 190 or so. My friends, we could have our own Richard Sherman on the roster. If he can play like Richard Sherman, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Saban is tough on his players. Maybe expected Kyrie to be tougher mentally. That's a possibility. I don't know. Kyrie is over 6'3". Kyrie is 6'4", I believe. 6'3.5" or 6'4.5", somewhere right in there. Edge like Sherman, nailed it. I'm all for, like I said, I'm all for, we need a little bit of the trash talk and a little bit of edge on this stuff. You know, guys who are good locker room guys, but can get out on that field and talk a little shit to the other team and get in a wide receiver's head, get them off their game a little bit. Same thing with the defensive line guys, you know, get in the offensive lineman's head. You know, we talked about Rodriguez earlier having a John Randall type motor. You know, I don't expect him to have the trash talk ability of John Randall, but you look at John Randall, who was one of the great trash talkers of all time. You need somebody like that. You go back and listen to some interviews with John Randall, what he would do to get in defensive lineman's head. It was just, it's a joy to go back and watch. It's, you know, if you ever have any time, go back and do it, just because it's a good watch. It's a good listen. But anyway, we've gone on about 52 minutes here, and last call for any comments you guys want to bring up. Otherwise, we are going to call it a night. Programming note: Vikings Uncensored studio show will be live this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Ryan, appreciate it. Thanks for jumping in. Again, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Time. Vikings Uncensored will be live as we do a full wrap-up. Bring Brunswick in here with his recap on all the guys that we took, and talk over a few things, and, you know, all the good stuff. Get in a little deeper dive on some of these undrafted guys and things like that as we get a little more time to work to look at them and see how things go here. But will be some programming changes coming up too, and we'll talk about that as well Wednesday night. So with that, guys, thank you again so very much for joining in the live chat. I know everybody's got a little bit of draft fatigue. It's been a long weekend. We got a lot of good players. I'm excited in the direction that we're going. Kwesi nailed this draft. I think we all, you know, said that this was going to be a critical draft for Kwesi. And again, you can't really grade a draft until 2 or 3 years into it. But from the guys they picked this past weekend, I love what he did. I love the McCarthy pick. I absolutely love the Dallas Turner pick. And the Kyrie Jackson's another good one. And I'm excited to see what some of these later round guys can do. But with that, again, we've got rookie camps coming up soon, so we're going to have stuff on that as well. We're going to get some other people in here too, some guests on the show to talk all this up. We're going to try to be live every week if possible during the summertime. See how things kind of go. Skull Mafia, hey, good evening. But again, shout out everybody in the chat. Shout out to the Filipino fan club, Noy, Nympha, Sam, everybody over there that watches on a weekly basis. Appreciate you guys watching halfway around the world. And with that, you guys have a great rest of your Monday night, and we will see you Wednesday at 8 p.m. live. Have a good one. Skol Vikings.
Oh, you didn't know?
Wrong button.